Well, normally, of course, I don't like Mondays, but this Bank Holiday Monday is going to be an exception because we have 4 queens for an hour, and they are...
Roger Taylor here.
Brian May. John Deacon.
Freddie Mercury.
Are you rolling in there? So, August 1986 saw the last Queen gig at Nebworth. Did the band actually break up after that? Was it a sort of decided thing between you? Thought, right, we will split, or did it just drift?
No, we didn't split up at all. In fact, we just said we want to rest. Because for the last, whatever it was, 15 years, we've been racing around the world and then coming back and making an album and racing around the world again. So we thought we'd just take a break, but still exist as a band, really.
Did you decide that before Nebworth, Brian, or did you decide after the gig, let's give it a rest for a while?
I think during that tour we thought we decided that. Is that right?
Yeah.
If I can remember back that far.
No, we just sort of thought it was a natural sort of flow, really. It was a very big tour, and it was very successful, and it was a natural sort of comma. So we rested, really, for a while, because we thought after this, well, let's take a rest. And it was a sort of unspoken agreement, wasn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Freddie here.
And I agree as well. He agrees. He's John Deacon.
John, yeah.
So, Freddie, the album A Kind of Magic, did you think at the time we've gone as far as we can go for a while?
Yes, absolutely. We wanted... Yes, I think maybe this sort of long sort of layoff sort of probably stemmed from me, and I just decided for myself that I think if I sort of come out with it and say, look, let's have a rest, and by that I meant that not just a little rest and then we go back in the studios. We wanted to sort of change the whole sort of format of things that we were doing and also give us time to do certain solo stuff, basically.
You were singing with that big lady, weren't you?
Well, I wasn't then, as you know, and it just sort of happened. Really, I mean, when we were actually doing the sort of Magic tour, I mean, I had no inclination that I was going to do a solo sort of project with Montserrat. But I did have in the back of my mind that I wanted to do something by myself. And I think so did the other lads.
And we'd had so many years, you know.
Yes, and so it was just a sort of breather.
Doing the same things, yeah.
It was just a breather, and to do some things that we wanted to do without each other. But it wasn't a split.
It's very lucky that you were all in agreement, because obviously with any band, the vocalist, at least for the media, tends to be a sort of focal point-ish. And with some groups, it's difficult to maintain that balance. I mean, you're lucky the other guys didn't say, oh, come on, Freddie, for goodness sake, we want to carry on.
It's because I think we know each other quite instinctively now after all these years. And there wasn't anything like, oh, I want to go and further my career without you. It wasn't that sort of thing. It's just something that...
space to do something else.
Yeah, and I mean, we've been together now 18 years, I would say. 17 or whatever.
Oh, my God.
I really think that if egos had sort of... if egos came into it, they would have done that a long time ago, and we would have gone our separate ways and all that. I think it's just, after a while, we get bored with each other, and then sort of we need
a bit of space.
We need a bit of space.
I think we learn to give each other our space, which helps, which keeps the balance of the band, because it's very hard to stay together all that time. Really. In fact, that's the number one trick, in a way. It's the secret. If you do stay together and you can still use each other's talents, but at the same time give each other some space to be individuals, I think that's the secret.
Johnny, are you in sort of musical harmony, the four of you? Do you all think the same?
No,
or
not at all, no. No, we all have different ideas, which is why we bounce off each other in a way. We all have.
Do you use them all, or, I mean, do you
We
sort of have
do.
to fight each other a little?
I don't know, we bounce off each other in the studio, don't we? I mean, all different ideas.
Each other on the walls.
We bounce each other on...
No, very different, you know, so that's what makes it interesting, I think.
So, John, what have you been doing since the demise of Queen? You've been probably the
there is no
quietest one.
demise of Queen.
Oh dear, we didn't talk about that.
A hiatus, perhaps?
We'll do it again, so it's like... What have you been doing over the last couple of years, John?
Not a lot, really. I've been on holiday a couple of times.
I don't like that phrase, word demise, do you?
Demise. No, I don't like that word demise. No, strike that, demise.
All right.
We'll have that out.
The 6 demises have all gone, so...
Well, I've had not a lot, really. A couple of videos for Morris Minor and the Majors, and that's about it.
And a big hit.
Yeah, one of them was, yeah. Stutter Rat one did well for them, yeah. And that's about it.
Do you find other people coming to you to do things? I mean, being a member of Queen...
They usually want the money. That's what they're after.
Do they want to be associated with you?
Yeah, yes, possibly, yes, sometimes.
Brian, you've been working with Anita Dobson.
Yes.
A lady with a good voice. I mean, people obviously know her through EastEnders, and then thought, hey, is Brian May a musician working with her? But she is a good singer there.
Yeah, I've done a lot of things which people have raised eyebrows about, I'm afraid, but I've believed in all of them. Yeah, I did Anita's album, which I think is very good, very musically good. And I produced the Bad News album, which I thought was very significant in its way.
Very musically bad.
Very musically awful, but totally right, I thought. Yeah. And I've played with a lot of people, which previously I didn't have the time to do, because Queen's been a very closed unit over the years. So I found myself, playing with Black Sabbath and jamming around with Def Leppard and people like that, which I've really enjoyed. And but for the time being, my opinion is that I shouldn't be a producer. I've done a lot of producing, but I'd prefer to play. And
is that where your main buzz comes, playing on stage?
Yeah, if I produce people, I end up playing anyway. There's always that thing, and I think that's what I do best. So I'm very happy to get back to that. And when the group started to make the album again, it was... it's nice to be back part of that team. There's definitely a good feeling about it, and there's a lot of... We do have very different ideas, but there is a balance, and we argue and all that stuff. But out of it comes something pretty good, I think, always.
When Bad News were around, a lot of people were saying that was a sort of English version of Spinal Tap.
There's a lot of parallels. There's some differences as well, yeah. But I just think they have... well, I don't want to get heavily into it, but I think they're very talented people in the same way as I think our group is, as a bunch of... comedians who actually have something to say. So it was a great project for me.
Do you still experiment with guitar sounds? I remember a few years ago doing a TV show with you, and you were playing with different coins to get cello sounds on your guitar. Do you still do that?
Yes. Yeah, but I still use the basic guitar setup. I'm not heavily into guitar synthesizers and all that stuff, the modern technology. We're into technology in the way that we put it on tape, but I like the way the guitar sounds. And I suppose I'm more into the natural guitar sounds than I was in the past.
Who are some of your heroes?
Well, it's got to be Jimi Hendrix and probably still Jeff Beck. Clapton, I think, is very, very wonderful. A lot of people. I listen to everybody. And
okay.
Mr. Van Halen, I think, is, of the modern guys, is exemplary.
Well, you've been doing that. Roger's been working very closely with The Cross, with your band The Cross.
Yes, that was really when we decided to take a bit of a pause. I thought I'd like to get involved with another band, but in a different capacity. So I'm the sort of singer of The Cross. And it's actually that they're developing now into a very much democratic group. But, of course, always, Queen does take priority over everything, which is why it was nice to get back in the studio again and make an album with the four old men.
4 old hags that we call Queen, yes.
This is the BBC's now, I can't tell.
You're opening...
I like Brian calling us a bunch of comics just now.
Comedians, yeah.
I was going to say, your opening track on the album, Party and Khashoggi's Ship, is rather unusual. And where did the whole concept of that come from?
Well, actually, that was really, I think Freddie and Brian, I think I was having a skiing holiday at the time, actually.
That's where it came from.
And I came back, and they had the ideas for... No, I think Khashoggi's... Well, we were all there, weren't we? But Party arose when I wasn't actually around.
So the album, Freddie, is called The Miracle. The track The Miracle, lyrically very interesting. I mean, was that an idea of yours?
The lyrics? No, actually, I think that's one of the songs where we all contributed. And wouldn't you say? I think on this album, it's the closest we've ever actually been in terms of actually writing together. And that's quite true. Before, we've actually had individual songs that we sort of... put about and bring to the other people, and the other, the others would sort of put their sort of bits in it. But I think from the start, these sort of tracks have sort of actually emerged by the four of us. So, I mean, I think it is. That's why I think this album's got nearly all tracks written by Queen. But lyrically, going back to The Miracle, I think the four of us really put everything into it. Because, I mean, somebody would come in with one line and say, oh, that's terrible, and change it. And so, in fact, I mean, in one way I hate that, because I have to keep singing the different lyrics every day until we sort of agree on the final one. But I'd say lyrically, The Miracle is a definite four-way split. Wouldn't you say? Yeah.
Yes, I mean, on this album, it's the most I think we've ever done together in terms of music and lyrics, really, isn't it?
That's right.
Was that deliberate, or has it just happened?
It was a sort of pre-agreed thing, so Roger. That was the idea. And we weren't sure whether we could actually do it like that, but it did turn out pretty much
that way. It's a major decision, in fact, on this album, which we've never ever done before, really. I guess we decided fairly early on, you know, that if we were all going to contribute to the songs, we would say in the end it was Queen that wrote everything. And that doesn't sound like a very big thing, but it makes quite a big difference in the studio, because you have a tendency to get very possessive about your own songs if your name's on it somehow. And from the start we said we're chucking everything in the pool and it's all going to be written by Queen. And so we probably, you know, as the others have said, you know, we actually got more into writing as a team than ever before.
Is this going to set a trend for future albums? Did it work as well, so you'll say, let's do it again?
I think so.
It's very satisfying, because ego-wise, it sort of helps. I mean, because, you know, you're not sort of saying, oh, I want this one because I think my song's better. Because if you're sharing everything, I mean, it's more democratic in a way.
Also, staying away from each other for a couple of years helps. You see, that's the reason. I mean, it didn't feel like sort of work in a way that, because after we took this long sort of holiday or doing our solo stuff, we decided that we'd only come back together if we really wanted to, and we felt that we really wanted to. And I remember, I mean, in fact, some of the first couple of tracks, the Party and Khashoggi's Ship that you're talking about, is something that we just came into the studio and things just evolved naturally straight away. So we were hungry for it, and it felt like the early days to us, and that's why we got very sort of excited and said, oh yes, this is going to be great. And out came a whole load of tracks, which we had to sort of, in fact, I think I seem to remember that we had to choose from something like 30 tracks to get down to this last 10, which is quite good. It was a good year.
So what do you
crop.
It's good vintage.
Good crop.
What do you do with the 20 tracks left over?
Well, they're still running about. I mean, they're there. But I mean, I think in one way it was quite hard to sort of sift through all of them and actually decide. In fact, that's where all the rows came in. But I mean, that's good. So we had to decide. A lot of people had individual tracks that they liked. And in the end, we had to sort of say, because the one thing I didn't want to do was actually work on all 30 tracks. And I mean, it's so funny, Paul McCartney happened to be next door, and he sort of had a very similar situation. And he said, literally had about 30 tracks, but he said he'd worked on virtually all of them. And I thought, my God, that's a very painstaking way of... I'd rather sort of do a little bit on all of them and then sort of say, OK, we'll just work on these 10. And so it's basically making the decision earlier on. And I think that's what we did. But, I mean, that's not to say that the others are sort of substandard. I think and they might come across later.
Yeah, do you keep those ideas around, and then when the next album comes up, say, if we don't have better ideas, we'll use the good ideas we have?
We tend to say that at the time, but I think, I mean, it depends when we actually go back in the studio. But, I mean, like, we had ideas way before, and when we came to doing this, we didn't touch them at all. So there's still a lot in the can from previous albums.
And we had a few ideas.
There's some really nice ones,
really
I think.
Good ones.
But we just seem to tire of them very quickly, don't we?
You always want to do something that's fresh, don't you? You want to sort of start again each time. So we've probably got an awful lot of tracks lying around.
I do feel sometimes that's to our detriment, because there's some great ideas that we sort of forget. But we always seem to get very bored with certain ideas if they're lying around.
I think that's the same virtue with any group or any act. By the time the album comes out and you've worked on tracks, you've had enough of them, but they're fresh and new to the public, and then you have to go around promoting them and think, oh, that's following me around, that album. Is that a pain? I mean, people always perceive it publicly as that it shouldn't be. They say, well, you've done the songs, you wrote the songs, you must like them.
It's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because the things which are popular, and it applies to us as well as the public in a way, I think. Am I making sense?
You are making sense.
Not really.
What I mean is it's continuing what Freddie says. You know, we had all these bits and pieces of tracks, and some of them were half finished, some of them were just an idea, and some of them were nearly finished. And it sort of happened on its own, really. You know, there are some tracks which you always want to get out and work on, and so they get finished. And there are some tracks which you think, well, that's great, but I don't really know what to do with it at this moment. So they naturally get sort of left by the wayside. So we actually didn't have an awful lot of decision-making to do. A lot of it just happened. The tracks which are just bursting to get out somehow get out due to sort of public demand within the group.
Do you have favourites on the album?
Well, I suppose everybody does. I think hopefully we pick the tracks that fit together best and complement each other to make a good album. But I don't know if it's all so fresh in my mind now. I don't think I do have any particular favourites, actually.
No, I'll tell you in 2 years' time. I can look back on it.
Yeah. Why did you record the album in London as opposed to going to Montreux and doing it in your own studio?
Well, we did a bit in Montreux.
We did some in Montreux,
did you?
actually, yes. So that answers that one, doesn't it?
Why didn't you do all of your new album in your own studio in Montreux?
Well, we live in London, I suppose, and it's just...
we wanted to be at home.
It's a lot easier.
For a change.
And also, I think it took a long while to get this far, and I think we get very irritable when we're in one environment. So, I mean, in fact, we used about 3 studios, didn't we? And that's a short amount. That's a small amount for us. Normally we go around... I think it's... Montreux was good, but it lasted a couple of weeks, and we came back.
Climbing the walls.
Yeah.
The track Breakthrough on your album starts off as though it's going to be maybe another Bohemian Rhapsody, the big choir and the full sound, and then sort of breaks into sort of punchy drumming.
Thank you.
Well, is it your intention, some of these, to surprise when people are lulled into that false sense? The choir boys have hit you, and suddenly in it comes.
Well, can I answer that one? Yeah, it's quite easy. But it's a prime example of what we were talking about before. I mean, the track Breakthrough sort of stemmed from Roger, really. It's basically his track. But the sort of a cappella vocal bit in the front was from somewhere else. And as, like we were saying, we had 30 tracks. That was a little piece that I thought was quite good. And I didn't want it to go amiss, so I just said, oh, well, just put it in front of that one. Put it in front of Breakthrough. So it's basically another song. But it seemed to sort of segue quite nicely. So it's just a snippet of something else, isn't it? I mean, that's the truth, basically.
But
I don't think it was
a
actually...
nice, interesting little... just, mix to it.
Because for anyone listening, they would think it's part and parcel of the same thing. To you, you must think for a while, those 2 bits put together.
But for now,
I think you know whether they work or not.
Yes.
Yeah. There's been quite a lot of that, because we wanted to distill as much of the ideas that we had into the album. So it has got very compressed in a way. There's quite a few examples of that. And obviously you only put things together when they make sense. But strangely enough, if you're all together working on particular ideas, the ideas do tend to mix very well. Because I suppose, you're talking about it and things come out of it.
So the album is very Queen as well. I mean, in the last 2 years, you haven't really allowed too many outside influences from anyone else to come into the album. It's very much a Queen album, isn't it?
I think it would have been very silly if we'd tried to sort of say, end up sounding like Prince or whatever's happening at the time. I mean, I think we have to stick to our guns. And I think, and really make an album of the kind that we feel that people wanted from us. We are there to sort of please people with the music. And I think this is that kind of album. So no, it's not fashionable really, and it's not heavily influenced by outside sources. I think it's very us, and it goes right back to our beginnings in many ways. And there's a lot of guitar on it. I think Brian's playing better than ever, actually. And, a lot of real playing, back to live playing in the studio.
OK, I'll come back to the album in a moment. Freddie, Montserrat Caballé, you had a great success there. one always got the feeling that although you're enjoying it, and you obviously like opera, that you're also having a wonderful laugh inside as you're doing it and thinking, this is outrageous, but I'm enjoying every moment of it.
Quite true, actually. It's like a tidal wave. It's quite ridiculous, wasn't it? Actually, at that point, I wanted to do something totally different. And I think it all sort of... It snowballed, really, because I really didn't think that she was going to sort of accept my sort of offer, as it were. And to cut a long story short, actually, at first I actually thought it was only going to be the one track. But she said, let's make an album. And I thought, my God, what am I going to do now? And so I was sort of stuck with it. I thought, you just don't turn the super diva down, And so in one way I think it was good because I didn't have that much time to think about it. But then having said that, I spent a year trying to make sure that... I was very nervous, I must say, and sort of... she put me about, but it was such a different thing to do, for me to do, and I'm glad I did it, because it's sort of very nerve-wracking, totally different, totally un-rock and roll, and something that really required a lot of discipline. But I'm glad it's over, actually. And don't ask me if I'm going to do another album, because I'm not.
I wasn't. What I was going to say was, do you need the discipline? Do you feel that you're all able to get undisciplined? You need that to peg you down, to keep you pushing yourself?
Yes, well, you do, because it's a kind of discipline that was totally different to me. It was totally new to me. I mean, you have to sort of... you can't... I had to write all the pieces with Mike Moran, and it was different. I didn't know her way. I didn't know what she was used to, and she's coming from a totally different world. And so I realised that I was learning so much while I was actually sort of with her, and so I had to do things in a very, very different way. It's very hard to sort of explain. But it's not like rock and roll. I couldn't work with her instinctively because, with Roger, Brian and John, I know over the years you know certain things and it's easier, but it was totally new sort of box of tricks for me. And so I was sort of feeling my way at the same time, as well as sort of trying to understand how she recorded, how she works, how she breathes, and what kind of stuff she likes. So, while I was writing away, I was sort of trying to find my way to make sure that she liked the pieces. And if she didn't like it, she'd tell you.
But you taught her some things, though, didn't you?
Well, yes. And there was sort of... The recording techniques were different. She was used to just coming in, sort of doing a bit and running off. And I said, no, you don't do that anymore. And she said, well, I'm not used to that anymore. And I said, well... And so I was teaching her sort of that, no, you can sort of sing differently. And it's a different world she comes from.
So no touring the country with her in a 1,500-weight comma van or anything like that?
Oh, for my dresses, yeah? No.
Have you got any ideas to... Is there anybody else along those lines you think, as a real flyer, I'd like to do something with them?
You mean to do a duet with somebody else?
Yes.
Basically, or Aretha Franklin is one. But she's...
Yes.
I can still... I can still see her as part of my world, but with Montserrat, I just didn't know where to start, basically. I must say, it was like a flippant gesture for me to start it off with, and I really thought it would never come to any sort of fruition. And when she accepted it, I was dumbfounded. So then I thought, my God, I better put my money where my mouth is. But I'm glad I did it. It's a totally different adventure, which I don't think will ever happen to me. I'd like to see other rock and roll singers try things like that, and see if they can get away with it.
They probably couldn't get away with it, Freddie, but you did.
There you are. I'm wonderful, aren't I?
Yes. The visuals for that, of course, were absolutely stupendous and over the top, as they have been for various Queen videos and things in the past. For the new album, do you have any over-the-top visual ideas? You must do, obviously.
Well, I think probably yes, but for the time being, the first video is meant to be very ungimmicky. We want to just be a band out there and be seen as a band again, which we thought was important. So I think the gimmicks, or I don't know if gimmick is the right word. I think the large spectacle stuff will be absent from the first video we do. We just want to be a band on stage.
You don't know yet. Mallet's doing it.
Mind you, with David Mallet, what can you say?
Yes.
Cast of millions it could turn into.
He's fab.
You're expecting the cavern, and you get the Plaster and Concord or something.
We have a strong visual for the cover of the album.
Which is what?
Well, the radio listeners will have a good time.
Yes, I will. Yes.
Oh, would I like to hear your description of the
Holding it in
cover,
front of
John?
No, I can't
microphone
describe
now.
it. No, I can't. But it is unusual and different, and you have to buy it to find out.
Good one.
Ooh,
I could
very
describe
sneaky.
John Deacon's hat to you at this moment.
Talking of rhythms, as we were earlier, the on Rain Must Fall is very much a sort of Latin feel, that sort of samba come funk feel, Roger.
Yes, that's a sort of a bit of a mixture. It's a mishmash, really. It's sort of quite machine-like in some ways, but with sort of African overtones.
A lot of overdubs on top.
Yeah, there's a lot of sort of percussion on top that I did on top of that one. So there's all sorts of things happening, but they made me take most of it out, of course, to make room for the guitars
Yes. And the vocals.
and the vocals. Yeah.
The going back to your group, The Cross, December '88, big party at Hammersmith Palais where you played.
Oh yes. In fact, that was a sort of Queen fan club.
Yes.
Christmas do. Yes, it was a sort of party, and we sort of went on and did a fairly spontaneous sort of 40-minute set, just short set. It was good fun actually. And then Brian came on, and we did a sort of blues set.
Mm.
It was good fun all round. Yeah.
Great fun, yeah.
Good. So you have to let off steam in some ways when you're not working.
Yeah, oh yes. I mean that was just purely letting off steam, and we thought everybody would just maybe enjoy it. And have a
Do you
good
do
time.
that at home when we see the album coming out and all the rest of it? I mean, do you get together privately? I mean, obviously you all get on very well. I mean, you're obviously soul brothers that need to spend a bit of time apart but like each other underneath. Do you get together socially at all and play or jam?
We get together socially.
Yeah.
We don't often play together, to be honest. We more often play with other people, strangely enough. But I suppose that's normal in a way. No, we see quite a lot of each other socially, yeah. Probably more than we did in the sort of mid-period where we drifted apart, I'd say. I think we're very much back together. And it's very corny, but it is like a sort of family in a way. And particularly when you go through dodgy bits of your life, sometimes the group is what you regard as the centre.
Yes, it seems to be a sort of anchor in my life, in our lives maybe. You know, it's always been there for so long now, 18 years or something, as Freddie was saying. And I don't know quite what life would be without it, you know, as a sort of fulcrum or something. But we don't really jam if we do see each other, you know, because that would be sort of like going back to work, you know. So it is either work or sort of social, I suppose.
While you've sort of had a couple of years sojourn and doing other things, have there been anyone when you're listening to the radio or listening to new records that you thought, hey, they've come through and they are great. I love this group. I mean, as you've become maybe radio listeners, record buyers, whatever.
Bananarama.
Yeah, what is it, harmonies that appeal to you, John?
Well, it could be, yeah.
They're three-part
Those
harmony.
vocal unisons are
Yeah.
something that...
It's quite incredible. We get three people to sing in unison on a record, isn't it?
Yes.
I hear an enormous edit, but never mind. We can use that for the Bananarama special. Bananarama special.
Yes, it's our tribute.
Bananarama, yeah.
So,
What about some of your favourite songs? I mean, stuff from your collection or things that you like. John, one of your favourites is Veronica. Maybe,
Yes.
I suspect, not just because of the song, but because you ought to like it.
No. The reason for this is I was told before we came in today we had to choose a song. And I said, well, I don't know what to choose as a favourite song.
Rolling pin for you, mate.
So I
Yes.
said, I better choose that one because it's my wife's name and it's got Paul McCartney playing bass, which is quite nice.
Cool.
Was Paul your favourite bassist as you were learning?
No, he's very good, but he wasn't necessarily my favourite when I was a young lad, no.
Who were some of your bass influences?
I actually used to like Chris Squire when I was quite young. I used to go and see them playing with Yes. And who else was there? The guy used to play with Rory Gallagher. He was quite good. Hugh McCracken.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
McCracken, yeah. He was good, actually. Saw him at the Market. Very good.
Yeah, but lots of different ones. No, Paul was very good as well. He's not bad, you know.
So Veronica, just so we can get it clean, because we're going to play the track anyway. I believe Veronica is one of your current favourite singles.
Well, yes, it could be, yeah. Well, they play it on the radio at the moment. I've heard it.
And because it's your wife's name.
It is, yes.
That led it really badly, but never mind. I'm sure we'll play the song anyway.
Freddie to say his one when you're
Can we
talking
have a
about
break?
Aretha.
Oh.
Yeah, well,
Freddie. And
Well, we'll do
We're coming around to... Well, I might change my mind by the time it comes around.
That's right. So talking of all-time favourite singles and singers, Freddie, Aretha Franklin, would one of her singles be one of your all-time favourites?
Yes, I think Natural Woman. I mean, she's got so many singles and tracks that I like. I love the Amazing Grace album. I don't know if you know, that's a double sort of gospel one, which I play from time to time and get loads of inspiration from that. But Natural Woman, anything by her really is great. And I'm mad that George Michael did a duet. I could have done it better. But no, I think she has...
Of course she could.
Mind you, having said that, I think George Michael has a very good voice. I think he's one of the other sort of singers that I like. Robert Plant is the other one. But, so, I mean, it's either Aretha Franklin, Natural Woman, or George Michael with Careless Whisper. Yeah, lovely track.
How would you, if you wanted to do something with Aretha, how would you approach it? Because the man in the street would think, well, Freddie, get on the phone and say, hi, Aretha, Freddie here, how about singing together? But obviously it doesn't work like that.
No, well, after Montserrat, I think those big mamas, I mean, I should leave them. I should leave them for a while. I mean, I'm glad to get back to the rock and roll bit with Queen, but I think I don't know how I do my best. I just sing. I mean, with Aretha, I'd do something sort of gospel-y, because I mean, I like to do certain, which we have done, with Queen, sort of gospel overtones. I mean, Somebody to Love had that. I'd love Aretha to sing Somebody to Love, actually. That would be a nice thing if somebody approached her and said, try that. But, no, I mean, trying to sing with her, I don't know, she hasn't approached me yet.
I'm sure she will. Brian, what about your favourites?
Well, there's loads of guitar stuff that I would cite, I suppose, But, you want me to say the favourite record?
Well, you can lead around to it.
Deathly silence.
You can ramble around to it. Ramble around to it. End up with that one. I think that's a pretty good idea.
Well, I'll wrap it up in the right things. Yes, my favourite record when I was growing up was Smokey Robinson record, Tracks of My Tears, the Miracles, and I think it probably still is because. To me, it doesn't matter what the record is made up of, it's whether it grabs you or not, and that for some reason just has it, the way he reaches out and sort of grabs hold of your heart is to me what pop records are all about. And so I would still say that one, really. Roger,
I believe one of your favourites is one John Lennon wrote that was inspired by a two-tone police siren.
Yeah, that's right, that's dee-dee-dee, that's, yeah. I don't know, I just find that I Am the Walrus by the Beatles is... it's very difficult to name one song, but I think that's a sort of surreal masterpiece in song. And what he did with the lyrics, with those sort of Lewis Carroll type in many ways, but with those lyrics was marvellous. And the sound textures on the record are wonderful, and it's got hidden depths. And I still hear different things in the record each time I hear it.
You turn the end up just to catch the spoken word to see how far it goes.
To catch the Radio 4 play at the end, which comes in, as they go down the radio bands. It's a wonderful record.
Okay, going back to the album and the track My Baby Does Me, which we're going to play next. How did this one... I mean, how does a song like My Baby Does Me and a sound, how does it
You have to look over to that part of the table to find this out. This is
Tell me,
Freddie.
Freddie, My Baby Does Me, where does that sort of emerge from? You've got nothing at all to start with.
Well, you came up with a bass line, which you made me play. Yes?
No, I thought you
No, you came up with it.
Oh, well, I think that song stems from John and myself, and I'm Freddie, by the way. It's... It was just something... I seem to remember that we were trying I wanted something a little more relaxed than the way the other songs were going. And I thought we were getting so involved, and they were very heavy. And I know there was so much sort of... there was a lot of guitar input in some of the songs, and I felt that we didn't have something that was quite sort of a little bit more pristine and a little bit more sort of clear-headed and not too involved. And so we decided, I thought, let's just go for something quite straightforward and something that we hadn't got in the batch. Am I making sense? No, I'm not actually.
It is very different from other tracks on
so
the album.
we decided that we should have something with just a very easy backbeat and something very listenable. And I don't think it was going to go on the album at first. We just decided that would be a nice breather at the end of the second side.
It's probably the most basic.
Yeah,
song,
well, that's the word I was looking for. And so we kept that in. But apart from that, there's no sort of wonderful idea behind it.
How did you decide on "I Want It All" for the first single? Again, is that democratic? Do you all sort of write on a piece of paper?
It was a huge shit fight.
I'd say out of the whole process of making an album, choosing the first thing is probably the hardest bit of all. It's always really dreadfully difficult to know what to put out. You know, it's really difficult. So I suppose, yes, it was democratic. We also tried to get a few other people's input, you know, people in the business, friends, people in the record companies that we worked with the whole time. And in the end, you never know if you've made the right decision, really. You probably never know. You know. We just got some feedback, I suppose, first of all from America, that maybe that would be the right thing for America and Germany. I think the territory we were least sure about was England, because you have this thing where, you know, Radio 1 has a certain sound, and if you don't fit into it, you can be worried that you don't get a look in, you know. So
I think
that
that can certainly be a negative thing with radio that dominates the country, where you've got one national pop station.
Yeah.
Which
if
is?
it does,
Radio?
Or Radio 1, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Plug.
If you...
which we are on, I have to
no
say.
need to plug our own station. No, where you do get that trap of a station getting a sound, I think it can be quite worrying, because if you're making your own music, you don't want to tailor it to fit into that sound.
Yeah.
At the same time, you want it to reach people.
Yeah, we've always had the idea that we really wanted to lead people to somewhere new rather than fit into what was going on, but it's always a risk. And so, I mean, there are other tracks on the album which would more easily fit into, for instance, Radio 1 programming. But we felt we would rather put forward a certain atmosphere
difficult.
first.
We all had different ideas of what the first single should be.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah.
But
I think it's very sad hearing someone say, fit into Radio 1 programming, because it...
Well, you
it
are
should be,
kind of...
Yes, I know, but I mean, I always think that if the music is good, it's good. If it's not, it's not, wherever it comes from.
Unfortunately, I don't think that's the case in this country. I mean, the music might be good, but I think the quality of the music doesn't seem to bear any relationship to whether it gets played or not.
I agree.
Quality is not the thing that's judged, the yardstick it's judged by. And as Brian said, it's got to fit into that kind of thing. Strangely enough, the record we chose for our first single doesn't really. It's certainly not Stock Aitken and Thingy.
And we may be
but
making a huge mistake,
But
folks.
it's very us. And it might be a mistake, you know. And we will know it's a mistake if it's not a hit.
You can't please everybody, and that's
No,
what
you
we want to
can't.
do, is to please as many people as possible with just the one single. And that's why, I mean, Queen have always been, it's the versatility that we like. And we have 4 sort of songwriters, and we all write very different songs. And I think the only way to get that is by buying the album. And then when we're left with a choice of one, it's very difficult. And I think sometimes we seem to do it in a way that we have like 4 singles all ready to go out, and they're all sort of different, one after the other. And that's how I think one would say that in the end, the way to get across that is to have 4 singles, one after the other, and then you'll get the idea. But I think basically, I would say it's the album that one should listen to. And
Yes.
I think this is just breaking the ice. It's just in the end you have to just say, let's go with the first single, and then out'll come the other 3.
It's funny, it brings back memories of years and years ago, because we always did say that. You know, people asked us what we were about, and we used to say, you have to really listen to the whole album, because that's what we're about. And we always were sort of an album group, I suppose. Even in the very, very early days. We used to say, please, don't judge us by a single. Listen to the album and find out the whole balanced picture of what we're doing.
But I remember lots of people telling us not to release Bohemian Rhapsody because it was commercial suicide. Because it would never get played on the radio because it wasn't suitable. 2, it would never get played on the radio because it was too long. And we stuck to our guns, and we didn't cut it down, and we released it as it was. And luckily, it sort of the story went the right way, but it could have gone the other way, and we could have
I'm sure
disagreed.
most people will be surprised to think that you're actually still worried about it being a major band for so long. They would assume that you'd be blasé and think, well, we hope the album goes to number one, we expect the single will be a hit, but seemingly not, because you must be worried about it. You're obviously worried about it to a certain extent.
We care a lot still. It's just the same as the early days. It's just the same. You know,
Maybe that's
you
why
want
we are
people
still going.
That's right. You want people to hear what you've been doing. You know, it matters a lot, yeah.
Okay, the song Invisible Man. Was any one of you...
Ask Roger.
Roger.
Yes.
Roger, are you the Invisible Man?
No. I wish I was. Sometimes I wish I was. No, I'm to blame for that one, sort of. But then everybody came in, and that went through quite a few changes due to everybody else putting in different bits and restructuring it, etc., etc.
Did the idea of the lyric come from anywhere?
I can't remember. Somebody was asking me the other day, and I can't remember where the idea did come from. I think it came from a book I was reading. But... and it just seemed to fit in with a sort of a rhythmic pattern I had in mind. And it sort of came there, from nowhere, really.
Okay, and the miracle...
You told me you were in the bath one day and singing it, and there it was,
I
Roger.
think that was Fred's line about something else.
No, you said in the bath.
It's Killer Queen, I think.
It's a crazy little thing, isn't it? Yeah,
Crazy little thing. That's a true story.
We seem to have fairly extensively covered the album, their own tracks. I mean, we have enough there, I think, easily for an hour. I think maybe a little trailer from everybody saying, hi, this is Bob, hi, this is, Stephen.
It'd be great for the programme, yes, eh?
Yes.
All the favourites and
Yes.
wonderful stuff, I must say.
I would let it run on.
Just, do you want to keep on going, sort of, just chat about plans, future?
We'll talk about
Wonderful
other groups.
Plans and future and whatever, and let's just go for a bit longer.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Good momentum building up, actually.
Is it? Oh, golly, we'll keep going then. Don't let it go now. You might win some.
Champagne will open in a minute.
Oh, fine, okay.
There are other tracks.
You've missed the last
Yeah, no,
one.
it's an
Yeah, I
hour
was gonna say
special,
that.
so...
You haven't mentioned Was It All Worth
Was
It?
it all worth it?
No, but we can only
could
get
go
so many
on.
tracks in 60 minutes.
I think
Just
is
chat,
my
your
favourite.
favourite songs, and a little medley at the beginning. Which is... No, we'll mention it. We can always change tracks. Which is your favourite track from the album, John?
This one?
Yes.
I don't know. It's difficult to say at this point because we've just finished.
No, we haven't. The tape's still rolling.
No, we've just finished making it. We've just finished making the album, and at this point you cannot.
What
Look.
was the one you were just about to mention was
that's
one
what
you...
Oh, was it all worth
You
it?
do like that one.
I do like that one. Yes, it's the last track on the album.
That's why you liked it.
Well, yeah, it has a semi-autobiographical feel about it.
Whose autobiography?
Well, the
Ours,
band's.
really?
All of you.
Yeah.
You include it if you want.
Thank you. What about plans for the
Spoons.
future? Are you going to tour?
I'll pass this on
Have
to
you
the
asked
next
each other
person.
yet whether you're going to tour? Would any of you like to tour?
Well, I wouldn't. I know they're waiting for me to say. What's it? At the moment, I don't think I'd like to tour. It's going. Oh dear. It's going back to the thing about I wanted to break the format, and as far as I'm concerned, I've been in the studio for 2 years. I mean, having done the Queen album, just before that, the Montserrat album, and I just think it would be, for me, it just wouldn't be right. I just feel it would be back to exactly what we said we wouldn't be doing, and I think it's just a matter of time. I think we just got to wait and see, and then if something comes up, then when we decide that we want to tour, we will do it. But I didn't want, personally, to tour on the same pretext as before, that here comes an album, so we go... besides, I mean, we've just, as far as I'm concerned, we've done all those big venues and everything. We've got to think of something different.
What is the new? I mean, everyone tours, and then they stop touring, and then they make albums. So is it time for people to sit down and come up with a new concept of putting yourself over to people?
Well, I think it's up to the individual. And I think, as far as Queen is concerned, my outlook on it is that we have to think of something new. And at the moment, nobody's come up with anything.
The nearest being Jean-Michel Jarre, maybe.
Well, I don't mean that way. It could mean... It
Who?
means...
What did he
It just
do?
means stepping
lots of
outside of Queen and things like that,
fireworks, did he?
which is what I did. I mean, okay, and I wanted to...
Oh, that
I mean,
guy who
otherwise,
mimes with lasers.
That's the one, yeah. That's the
Anyway, it's getting to
Actually, no,
otherwise we'll grow too old, you know. And I'm going back to the Montreal thing. I'm glad I did that. I would never have had that chance if we'd kept the ball rolling and it kept doing. Because I mean, over the last years, all we've done is a studio album or an album per year, and then you tour and you go around the world, and then by the time you come back, you think of the next album. You've got to. I think for us to get to this level, for us to actually sit here and talk to you about this new album, I think we would never have sort of arrived at that if we hadn't taken that 2 year off. I think
yes,
those 2
it
years
probably
off.
wouldn't
I
have
really do. It's actually sort of stepping outside of Queen, doing something and saying, we miss Queen, and then we want to come back and do something, is why I think this album sounds so fresh.
While you all still look much as you did when you started, I mean, none of you had aged an awful lot since you started.
Mike,
Oh,
you're so
Mike,
kind.
oh.
I'm lying. While you look much the same as you did when you started, had you thought about doing a definitive film, The Queen Story?
Well, there is a thing out there. There is a whole sort of video anthology of sort of the history of Queen out there in 3 extremely long
yeah.
volumes.
Meryl Streep in it.
I mean, as
Jack
an
Nicholson
actual film.
plays me.
Do you mean that we actually participate in the acting?
Yes, that you play yourselves in the story of Queen
how
with
boring.
the music.
Oh no, I think that would be
You wouldn't
absolutely
like to do that,
horrendous.
Start taking acting lessons and things like that.
Well, to
I
be
don't think
yourself.
No, I mean sort of, and you know,
Interesting
actually
idea.
what to be directed by. I don't think anybody, none of us have any sort of big ideas. I personally don't want to be a film star and things like that. I mean, I know Sting and people like that. I mean, if we wanted to do that, we would have done that a long time ago.
What do you want to do?
Well, I just want to be a boring old fart and carry on like we are.
Actually, it might sound strange just because I think we built a lot of our reputation on our live stage act. But I think until we're ready to sort of to maybe perform again, you know, till all of us are ready, you know, maybe we won't, but and hopefully we will at some point. I'm waffling.
It's a
But I know it sounds a little odd because we know there's a big demand there for it. But I think the time will come and we'll choose the right time.
Do you need to be hungry to do it or not?
No, I don't think it's a question of that, really.
I need to be. And this is Freddie talking.
Yes.
You see, this is it. You're talking to 4 people with very, very different ideas, very strong individuals. And it does need 4 people to actually want to do it. And I mean, if one person doesn't want to do it, then you can't. And I'm afraid, I think I'm the actual spanner in the works at the moment. And I'll be very honest in saying so.
Well, the others would like to tour.
Yes, I think so. Yes, I'm the one that doesn't want to.
Do they hate you for it?
I don't know. I don't give a damn, actually, what they think. It's just that I don't want to do it. I know. I don't think I'm letting them down or anything. It's just, I think, after all these years, I think you have to sort of believe in between the 4 of us, you have to believe in each other. And if one person doesn't want to do it for something, and if he has a grievance about it, I think I'd do the same if, say, Brian suddenly didn't want to do it. I mean, if one of them didn't want to do this album, we'd have to agree, because I mean, it's no point forcing somebody, especially after all these years. It'd be so awful. It's like you say, "Are you hungry?" Now, I agree with that. You have to be hungry, especially after all these years, to do whatever we've done all these years. Otherwise, it'd be. I don't want to bring up any names, but I hate to do that sort of slogging thing for the sake of doing it. I mean, we don't need any more money, actually, to be honest. So we don't do it for the money. But I think we do it for the music, which is, I know it's a boring thing to say, but because we still have the music in us. And I think we want, every now and again, if you stay away from it, you think, my God, I wonder how people, are they still going to accept us and things like that. That's still there. So the hunger has to be there. And I really don't think this album would have come about if we weren't still hungry for our own music. So I think we have to be interested in another thing. I mean, we're very happy with the way things have come out, and I think we would only have done it because there was a time where I just thought, after about 2 or 3 months, I thought it was all going to sort of disband, meaning come to pieces, and we were going to disband this project. but we carried on. So I think, from my point of view, and it's harder now than it ever was. I think we really have to want to do these sort of things.
So how do the rest of you get rid of the frustrations, as the three of you maybe would like to tour? Do you then think, we'll have to go and play somewhere else?
Well, he has.
Well,
when you're playing
I've
with
sort
the
of
cross.
played with the cross, and I really do enjoy that. That's a real outlet for me, and it's also different. As I say, I'm not the drummer in that band, so that's very interesting. I mean, I can live with that, and everybody has their own way of thinking. We've always done things that we've all wanted to do, and we can't, possibly go on tour if one of us isn't keen. It would be as cheating, really. So there we go.
So what about future projects for you, Roger? Anything coming up?
Yes, I hope to do another cross record at some point. I'm not sure exactly when. And we'll see what happens there. But in the meantime, I hope that this Queen record is well accepted. And it'll be interesting. This is a very funny stage. We've just finished the record. And so we don't really know. We're a little bit shell-shocked. We've been in the studio for a year. And so it's probably not the best time to sort of ask us, because we've got no retrospect on it. No perspective on it.
What about you, Brian? Plans for the future? Anything that you want to get your teeth into?
Well, I've had a solo record on the cards for a long time. I've done a lot of stuff for a solo record. I just haven't quite got it in the shape that I want it yet. And I suppose I've got a taste for being a frontman as well as a guitarist. I mean, I enjoy it. I mean, I found it when we got up and with Roger and John at the Queen convention thing. I got up and I just enjoyed being able to sing a bit as well as to play. I'm not a singer, but to have the freedom to be able to put ideas forward with the voice as well as the guitar, it was a good feeling, So I don't expect to play Madison Square Garden or Earl's Court, whatever. But I would quite enjoy just doing some clubs, singing and see what happens, because I feel like I've got something to say on my own, as well as with the group.
Do you ever have any feelings towards getting a small blues band together, for example?
Well, I suppose I've come close. Some of the stuff that I've done for the solo project is like a kind of blues band. It's funny you should say that, yeah. And I suppose I'm a bit closer to blues than maybe the rest of the band. I don't know. I get a kick out of that. I feel sort of close to home doing that sort of stuff. So we have to see. And I'm a great admirer of what Eric Clapton has done with his career, and he's managed to get all his playing ability into the stuff that he does, and he has a lot to say. So I think as a model, I couldn't choose someone better than Mr. Clapton.
Right, John, any more Morris Minors in the pipeline? Or?
Yes, there is one, I'm afraid. Yeah. But apart from that, I have no plans at the moment. We've just spent a whole year in the studio. I feel actually quite exhausted by it. I mean, it's been a long, hard slog, and even doing this interview is worse. But...
Come on, you've had a nice skiing holiday in between.
Oh, well, it was 5 days, 6 days. that was more exhausting than being in the studio. So at the moment, it's like take a break, going away for Easter with the family, and then see what happens. But I have no plans at all after that.
John has no plans.
Well, no, not really, no.
Oh, right. It's nice.
I'm open for offers. I'll put that in the Melody Maker.
We should have said that. Yes, classified.
Michael,
John Deacon,
can you hear me?
6 gig, no hippies, no buskers. What? Or just a load of waffle, and then Paul can spend a week cutting the trailer up. Okay. Well, normally, of course, I don't like Mondays, but this bank holiday Monday is going to be an exception, because we have 4 queens for an hour, and they are...
Roger Taylor here.
Brian May.
John Deacon.
Freddie Mercury.
There we are, told you.
Join
The
us.
boys from the Queen.
We'll do a few more bits.
Once more, please, what you were saying, the boys from the Queen.
What's the title of the show again?
Queen
Queen for an hour.
For an hour.
Normally, of course, I don't like Mondays, but this Monday is going to be different, because we have 4 guys who are going to be Queen for an hour, and surprisingly, they are.
Roger Taylor, drums.
And Brian May.
John Deacon.
Freddie Mercury.
Told you. Trust me.
That's got you, isn't it?
Go on, Freddie, say something.
Oh, I see. I thought you were going to lead me in.
No. You just go in your own time there. We can use all this. Go on, Freddie,
Hello.
say something. Oh, sorry. Go on, Freddie, say something.
Hello, this is Freddie Mercury. I hope you like some of our new tracks from an album called The Miracle.
Hello, this is John Deacon. You're listening to Radio 1, and we are with Mike Reed.
Who is going to be Queen for an hour. This is Brian May.
And this is Roger Taylor. Join us on Bank Holiday.
I'm not the Queen for an hour, but they are.